Erin, I'm going to start with you because there is an opportunity here in terms of those people in the middle and maybe conservative Democrats among the voters.
That's right. There is an opportunity for Democrats to moderate toward the middle, but everything they're showing as of this point is they're not looking to expand their party or their base. They're looking to make it smaller, and you see that through the overtures of this early 2028 jockeying. You see AOC and Gavin Newsom abroad, who are both historically and geographically illiterate. You see that when you see Wes Moore right now, who is the governor of Maryland, who is having an actual crisis right now with feces all over the Potomac River because of mismanagement. All of these Democrats continue to attack Donald Trump instead of stand up and show their own path forward. Because of that jockeying, all they're going to do is drag each other further to the left and not work to expand the base, address opportunity, and make a bigger field for themselves to try and win a primary.
Well, and then you have the fakery, Megan, and I call it that because Gavin Newsom has worn every different hat on top of that beautiful hair. I mean, seriously, we don't know who he is, but we do know he's got a monster big homeless problem in his state that he can't seem to solve. So what does that say that one of the people with the greatest recognition and possibly early support is this guy?
I mean, I think that is a very long time to the 2028 elections. I think that out of all the candidates that you showed that are polling, only one of those candidates is considered really progressive left socialist, as you would call it. But I think that Gavin Newsom has a way to go. He has to prove to the American people that he is fit to be the primary candidate. When I worked for Joe Biden, he entered the race. There were 24 other candidates in the race, and he was polling very low and so on. So there is a ton of time left to go. And Democrats have, since the 2024 election, have really outperformed in 248 different down-ballot races. So the American people are resonating with the Democratic Party on a local level. It'll be interesting to see if Democrats running for president in 28 can take that message and really run with it.
Look, AOC learned the hard way, and maybe Gavin Newsom is learning it too. What you do in your home state is a lot different than a national scale. Doesn't matter which zip code you're in. Critics on the left and right have a lot of criticism, speaking of AOC, after her gaffes, big ones, in Munich.
It is not a remark on who Maduro was as a leader. He canceled elections. He was an anti-democratic leader. That doesn't mean that we can kidnap a head of state and engage in acts of war just because the nation is below the equator. My favorite part was when he said that American cowboys came from Spain.
I thought they came from Winnetou, but
I believe the Mexicans and descendants of African enslaved peoples would like to have a word on that.
Would and should the U.S. actually commit U.S. troops to defend Taiwan if China were to move?
I think that this is such a, I think that this is this is, of course, a very long-standing policy of the United States. And I think what we are hoping for is that we want to make sure that we never get to that point.
Vice President J.D. Vance would like a word about that.
Look, that was embarrassing. If I had given that answer, I would say, you know what? Maybe I ought to go read a book about China and Taiwan before I go out on the world stage again. Does anybody really believe that AOC has very thoughtful ideas about the global world order or about what the United States should do with our policy in Asia or our policy in Europe? No.
Megan, wasn't there a warrant for Maduro? Does she not know about the indictments against Maduro? She says he was kidnapped. I know he says that, but he's, the criminal that they're looking at here. What's your response to all of this?
I just think that when you go to Munich to the security conference, or whether you go to any of these other Davos or these other world stages and you put yourself out there, you need to come with your ducks in a row. And this is where you separate people who are serious that are going to run for president in 28 and people who are not. The American people are paying attention to these things. Our standing on the world stage is extremely important, and it's extremely important to the people of this country. And these answers really do matter. So, when you put yourself out there, you better have all of your answers and your ducks in a row, or you shouldn't be out there going to these things. The media and the people at these forums are different than people in her district or who are measuring her for a potential Senate race.
Yeah, and all over the country, they're different from that district. Erin.
That's right.
That's exactly correct. Not only does AOC represent a really leftist portion of the country and an incredibly socialist leftist part of New York. I grew up in Western New York, very different than AOC's district. But Megan's point is completely correct here. AOC went on to the New York Times after her disaster in Munich, trying to walk it back and saying that she prepared. If that is her prepared to show up on the world stage, heaven knows what we would have looked like had she not prepared so eloquently, to not know geography and to not know geopolitical realities. And she is considered someone that Democrats consider a standard marker and a beacon for the party. Whether or not she goes far into the primary, she's certainly going to drag it further to the left. And it doesn't matter if you're AOC, Josh Shapiro, Gavin Newsom, you're going to have to fight back to the middle on this.
Excuse me. We entered into this conversation with this idea of conservative Democrats. Quickly, Megan, are there any in your party?
Yeah, absolutely. You can see that all over the country in places like Tarrant County, the state Senate district in Texas, that just had a 30-point swing for a Democrat. So I do think that they are all over this country. They may not be on the national stage or
do they
running
have
in
power
Senate
in your party? Can they fight off the far left that is willing to basically drag you in its direction?
Absolutely, because that's what we're talking about on TV. That's what we're talking about in publications. That's not what's going on the ground, and that's not what's impacting these districts and these different communities.
I tell you, if you slap a 10+% tax on property here in New York, we won't have to put it on TV. The Democrats on the ground are going to feel it like everybody else. Good to see you both. Thank you. Outnumbered after.